BernardRiley, how you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Our mutual collaborator, Ike Ogiamian, connected us. So Ike is Ike's a high value man.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, he's borderline. He's he's going to get there someday.
Right. And I just got married.
That is correct.
That's a little bit of a to many in the Manosphere. One thing that's I discovered Ike by watching Kevin Samuels and Superjet Jesus. I'm like, who's the dude that's given $500 every night? I was like, and sometimes twice in the same street. It's like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then I saw him a couple times, like collaborating with like Solomon Jones and a couple others. And I was like, let's reach out to this guy. So I just reached out to him, and he just got right back in touch, and interview. We have a show together now. It's every other Tuesday, called Getting Ish Done, and we talk on kind of productivity kind of topics. Your show, you're getting a lot of live views, especially for the time slot that your show is in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it was smart to do your show when you're doing it, because not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of live stream kind of stuff at that time.
Yeah.
But yet and still, I mean, it's like in the middle of the workday. But you're still getting you're still getting a lot of views. I mean, when one of the shows you do, what is this, the grown hour with the Mumia Obsidian Ali?
Yeah. Well, the show, the name of my show wasn't named by me. It wasn't named by me. It was named by one of the viewers. I'm sure you're familiar with the name Pablo Frescobar. You've probably seen him around. He's been in this space. He has a small channel that probably will take off someday. But I like Pablo, and we used to have a lot of really good discussions on my show. We still do, even though sometimes it gets a little wild. But we were having good discussions, and Pablo just out of nowhere just said he likes to listen to it. He's like, it's like the grown man hour, where grown men having grown man discussions or whatnot, and people was like, hey, I like that, and that's the name of the show. So that's what we kind of went with, so it's the grown man hour with BernardRiley. I kind of didn't really, I didn't initially like it, but it just kind of stuck. So I'm like, hey, okay, we're gonna roll with it. So that's where it came. As far as the time slot, like you mentioned, yeah, that was strategic, because nobody comes on at a steady, consistent time like that in the morning. Everybody comes on sporadically at whatever time they come on, but nobody comes on pretty much consistently. Ideally, I would like to start right at 9 a.m., but I tend to run late, so sometimes it may start at 9:15 or 9:30, no later than 9:45. I try to keep it close to 9 a.m. And Obsidian used to do that time slot. This was before I ever went live on YouTube. I used to notice Obsidian going on at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. and I was seeing him having amazing views. So I knew the morning slot was a slot that somebody could actually fill. And by the time that I decided I'm going to go live, Obsidian was going on. I think he was going on around 12 noon at the time. So for whatever reason, he moved his time up. Actually, no, he wasn't even on YouTube. He was going live on Mixler at 12 noon. So I was like, hey, that whole morning space is available. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to fill that spot. I'm going to be consistent and go on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. And that way, if people don't even get the notification, they know at 9 a.m. I can look for Bernard. He's going to be on the air. And so that was kind of strategic, and it happened to work. And pairing up and partnering up with Obsidian, where he was, de facto co-host, and sometimes he still is to some degree. We'll pair up and do a duo at least, once or twice a week. We'll do a collaboration, sort of like how me and Ike are doing every Sunday. Me and Obsidian would just randomly do different days, and he wasn't on YouTube at the time, so a lot of people wanted him back on YouTube. So I was like, hey, come on over here on my show. So my show became the de facto show where people that kind of missed him being on YouTube, they would come in and they would get their fill of Obsidian from my show. So that was sort of what was more or less going on there. So that kind of got me in the Black Manosphere algorithm, and the rest is history. Once that algorithm started hitting me, then it was like, okay, I got to deliver now. People are filing in, 100, 200 at a time. And then it's grown and got bigger from there. Like very recently, I actually had 930 people in there at one time. I couldn't believe it. Like that just blowed my mind. But yeah, it's grown. It's been a success. I was just talking to someone off the air. You almost I had to get off the phone because you would have heard me having an off the air conversation with somebody. I was just talking about how last year in January, I just started going live on YouTube. Just started going live. First month, I was having anywhere from 10 to 15 people in the live in there watching me live. So you could imagine that right now, fast forward just a year and some change later, I'm blown away at the overall success of it. So yeah, I'm humbled every day by the numbers of my show. But yeah, that's the history of it. Just to sum it up shortly.
Yeah, I mean, for the number of subscribers you have, I mean, a lot of folks that have more subscribers than you have, I mean, are not getting anywhere near the kind of live views that you're getting. Right. And so that's quite incredible. It makes me also wonder how many like ninja watchers you have too. That seems to be I mean, I suppose everyone deals with them point at some in some sense, but there's a lot of folks that are just watching and they're not subscribed. They're not liking, You
call them ninja watchers.
So the ninja watchers, that thing, that's now I'm borrowing that from Fresh and Fit podcast.
Oh, okay.
And they do a whole routine with it. They have like ninja masks and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you guys need to subscribe. Stop being ninja watchers." They go into a whole thing about it. But basically, watching like on the low, like, it's like showing up at a spot you don't really want people to see you. You just, you're in the back, you're hanging out. Somebody let you in, you didn't even pay.
Right.
But the whole YouTube algorithm thing is interesting because it seems like it definitely rewards consistency.
Yep.
Which I think your show that's evidenced in the success that you've had in this period of time. And when I started watching your show, and I tune in often when I'm at the gym. So basically my routine is something like, I get up, get my son ready for school, drop my son off, and I go to the gym. And, and around 9:00, I'm warmed up and everything. And so then your show comes on. Now,
thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
I want to ask you about a couple things. So I was watching one of your shows, and you were mentioning something that Ike said to you in a previous broadcast about introverts, and that was a show that I wasn't in a place that I could do it, but that was a show that I especially at the beginning, because you and Mumia were going back and forth. It was not really on the topic of the show, but it was on this sort of introvert and sort of and you were talking about your own relationships, and like after your divorce, you were, playing the field and everything, but it gets tiresome, especially as an introvert.
Yep.
And so just kind of talking about some of those dynamics. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to figure out exactly where to start. I don't know if a lot of people that watch my show know, because I talk about it a lot. I got married really young at 19. So I was married from 19 to 31. And so when I got single for the first time, and the woman I married, she was my first. So my whole adult life, I wasn't really out there dealing with women until like after 31. Only I was just married man going home, work, kids, wife, work, kids, wife. That was all it was. So ultimately what ended up happening is, after I got a divorce, here I was 31 years old, getting out there dealing with women for the first time in my adult life. Other than, it doesn't really count, 17, 18, 19, prior to the marriage. Yeah, that doesn't count. This was a real deal. So I'm out there, and yeah, that's what I kind of figured out, that I didn't know what an introvert was, but that was when I truly figured out that that's what I was. And life isn't all about chasing women, but being single for the first time in your adult life at 31, yeah, my life was about chasing women for that brief period. I was going in. I was hitting the club for the first time. I was getting out there. I was trying to, have a good time with it. And I was like, man, this just is not me. I got a headache sitting in here around all these people and doing all this stuff. But it was something that I had to overcome, because at the end of the day, I am a man, and I did want sex from women, so I had to get out there and had to suffer through it, and then eventually, I got good at it. But it's an exhausting task. A lot of people don't understand that introverts, being around a lot of people, it just burns you out. The example I gave on my show, when I was operating machines at a job, I could work 12 hours all day. Just hand me a blueprint in the machine, and okay, here's the machine, here's a stack of blueprints I got to get through by the end of the day. I'm just working independently by myself. The supervisor comes by 2 or 3 times just to check on me. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right. You got any issues? No, not really. Just this, that thing, and that thing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. High five. See you in another 5 hours or so. You come back, do the same thing, talk for 5 minutes. All right, see you at the end of the day. That was pretty much it. I didn't talk to nobody the whole day. I could work 12 hours, 7 days a week and not be tired. When I was working on assembly lines, that means a person is literally right here and another person is literally right here. Like, you can reach out and touch them. So I'm sitting there talking to people all day, interacting with people all day. I could work 8 hours, go home and have to take a nap. Got to go to sleep. I'm exhausted, just burned out just from dealing with, interacting with, and talking to people. Because introverts, we get our energy from, solitude. Extroverts get their energy from being around people. So that was another example where I figured out, man, I'm truly an introvert, and I got it bad, because I do not like being around a lot of people and having to talk all day, every day, constantly talking to somebody. It was exhausting, and that's fine. it's no big deal. But when you're single and out trying to mingle and meet the ladies, you gotta get out there and gotta force yourself to do it. So that was a stumbling block that I had to learn about myself, that eventually I, figured out how to work around it. And, so I eventually got out there and did okay, met some new ladies, and after the marriage. And so, the rest is history. But that's and being an introvert, a lot of people, if you're not an introvert, you don't understand it. I'm speaking a foreign language. I take it you're an introvert as well.
I am. And, Ike is too. And this is a topic that we talked about, just being an introvert and some of the kind of pros and cons. And that phrase that you used, I think he was borrowing from me, that whole competing for attention thing. That's the thing that is the energy sucker. One thing about an introvert, it's not being in front of people or talking, or even talking with someone one-on-one. That's not an issue. It's the competing for people's attention. It's the small talking. It's the sort of trying to manage your depth. My challenge always is, I really enjoy conversation, and my tendency is to go deep, because small talk is not for me. That's just not my thing. If I have to small talk for very long, as you were suggesting, it takes a lot of sleep to recover from that. An illustration I sometimes use is about, like if I had to go to a mixer, I don't know anybody. And since I don't know anybody, all of the conversation would have to be surface level, and I'd have to be competing for attention. If I did that for an hour, I'd need 2 days of sleep. I need to sleep for like 2 days just to come out of that. It's just now my wife, on the other hand, she is an extrovert, and she's just the opposite. So so as you were saying, so if we went to, so this has actually kind of worked out for me, because if we go to events where neither of us know anybody, she goes and kind of does the reconnaissance, and she'll be like, "Hey, you want to talk to this person over here? They're a musician." Or go and talk to this person over here. They're an academic. You might want to talk to them. She'll do that, and then and then I can have like real conversation, and it's not as taxing.
What's funny to me is that I don't even understand how people can just work a room like that. Just go into a room, don't know anybody, and then just asking questions, blah 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 over here, blah 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 over there, and then you've gathered all this information from all these people. I don't even get how people do that. I've seen it done. I've seen those people that can go into a room with a bunch of perfect strangers and then know everybody's life story by the time they leave that room. I get blown away by that. Now, I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but I got to ask this question. Do you and your wife, because my ex-wife, hold on. My ex-wife, she was a introvert. She was an extrovert. Do you all run into problems with that? Because you don't want to go do this stuff, but she wants to do it. And
that's a good point. It is true that she more likely or more often wants to do social events than I do. I think we've sort of learned how to compromise on that. She doesn't expect me to go to as many as she would like to, but then I also go to more than I would like to. Often she a critique that she has for me, that she offers, is it's just about going out and, quote unquote, supporting other people's stuff more often. And the reason that I don't do that is primarily because I'm busy and I have a lot of stuff that's going on. But on the other side of that is that if you are busy, then you probably don't have a whole lot of energy. And the last thing I want to do is go and have to small talk when I don't have any energy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, so she, we kind of have reached a certain kind of compromise. And one thing also she's become better about is if we go to an event and I tell her I'm ready to go, she knows how to.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, she knows how to, wrap it up pretty quick. Because early on in our marriage, we would go to events and I'd be trying to get her to wrap it up, and we'd be there for another hour, another 2 hours, and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I can't mess with that. Another thing I don't really like doing is shopping.
Oh, hell no.
And that's like a common guy thing. Not a lot of guys like to shop, but she loves shopping. That's her, that's like her love language or something. And but she doesn't have, she doesn't have like a strategy. Like if I need to shop, if I can't get it online, all right, see, that's already kind of fixed a lot of my issues right there. So, but if I can't get it online, then I'm very strategic. I go straight to the thing I want and then I get out of there. I mean, she doesn't really have a strategy. She just like shopping for the experience or something.
Yes. It's a sport. I used to call it competitive shopping. She's just out there shopping. It's about the love of the game. It's the hunt. She enjoys the hunt. Not making the kill. She enjoys making the kill, but she loves the hunt too, man. I can't do that. Yeah. Eventually, when I was married, I would start eventually having to shut that down too, man. We would be out shopping for so long. Me and the kids, we just dragging ourselves along. Just, man, like if you don't wrap it up, I feel like we done journeyed all through Middle Earth. We've been walking so long. Like wrap this junk up. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it, man. Women be shopping I forgot what comedian made a big skit about that. Women be shopping, man. I hate it. I hated that junk. That was one of the after the divorce, that was one of the things that I enjoyed the most, is just the not having to be concerned with another person and what they had going on. And I just to be in my own little peace and solitude. That was, man, it's like, yeah, sorry. Sorry, I don't want to, you're married man. I'm sure you're happily married. I don't want to, give you no, I don't want to give you no bad ideas. Go ahead. But anyway, go ahead. But yeah, that was, the peace.
But I'll tell you, one thing about the Manosphere is, now, of course, it's not a monolithic space. Right. So there's a lot of different kind of people that are in the sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And some you could probably characterize as they're red pill raging, and they're right, at least for that moment, they don't like women very much. But that's not the experience with most of the content that I check out. And yeah, there are some harsh critiques of there's some harsh critiques of women, modern women, in behaviors that not only are at the detriment of men, but turn out being, bad for themselves. It turns out, not a good story for themselves. With the state of the dating market, do you think that we can come together? I'm talking men and women as far as what our interests are. Do you think it's possible, or do you think that ship has sailed and it's never going to improve?
Well, I get accused of being taking or being on what they call Hopium, somebody who has hope. So yes, I'm hopeful that things will get better. Something that me and Ike actually talked about is right now, and I've been saying this for a while, but the way he put it was very well. I like the way he put it as well. Regardless of excuse me. I need some more water. Regardless of how bumpy the terrain is, as a man, you got to get out there. You got to figure it out. You're a man, so you gotta figure it out. No matter how bumpy the terrain is, you got to figure out how to drive through it. That's one factor in the equation, and a lot of people solve that problem in a lot of different ways. Some people say the market is so messed up out there. Women have changed to the point to where they've adjusted to this modern society to the point to where, you know, they're not what they used to be. And so some guys just accept that and just live a casual sex life. That's essentially where MGTOW initially came from. If I understand it correctly, I could be wrong. They just live a casual sex life. Or shout out to Coach Greg Adams. He calls it a free agent lifestyle.
Right.
I believe that's more or less what a lot of guys are doing. And I was doing that for about a 4-year period before I even knew the Manosphere lingo. That's essentially what I was doing. That was just my natural response post-divorce and seeing how women operated, how a high percentage of women operated out there. It was just like, yeah, it is what it is. And plus, I wasn't ready to get in no relationship anyway. So I was living that lifestyle for about 4 years. I got divorced in 2014. So from about 2014 to 2018, I was more or less living that lifestyle. Now, as far as
you were living your best life.
Well, the thing is, I'm still living my best life.
Well, it's a joke.
I get it. I get it, but see, that's the thing. I was happy then, and I'm happy now. But I like to make that very clear. It wasn't like I surrendered my happiness when I got in a relationship. If that was the case, I wouldn't be in one. So, so far as men and women ultimately coming together and getting on the same page at a noticeably higher percentage rate, I'm hopeful of that, but it could be pie in the sky. It honestly could be just pie in the sky hope, because women have changed. Women are, you know, we live in a society where a woman, unless she truly values marriage, she doesn't have to get married. She can go to work. She can work a job in an air-conditioned cubicle, make just enough to get by and be comfortable. If she doesn't have the ability to do that, okay, there's government assistance. She can live comfortable and get by. Or if she happens to have some type of talent or skill or intelligence, she can make a lot of money and do just fine. So they're in a place where they genuinely do not need a man. But shout out to how Kevin Samuels words it when he talks about we live in a world built by men, but this world built by men was built so good in a way to where women are able to live without men. So they can live without us. They can be strong, independent, and don't need no man, because men have built a world that allows them to be able to barely have any talent or skill, but can go in an air-conditioned cubicle and make enough to pay their bills and put food on their table. You know, so in that sense, it would have to be a full-blown cultural shift where they're really seeing the outcomes of their decisions. Okay, yes, you don't need a man, yet you're still having sex with men that you probably don't even want to be married to, because we know a lot of them get proposed to, they deny their proposals. A lot of them get with guys, they get married, they leave at, you know, we know the stats, the 80% rate that they leave. So it's almost like a lot of them, they don't value the marriage, and we're seeing this bear out just listening to the Kevin Samuels calls. And we shouldn't just listen to strictly that as our data, but what a lot of them are saying, not all, but what a lot of them are essentially saying is that at least what I gather from it is that they don't value marriage, but if they can get a man who makes enough money to where it's really a benefit to be with him, then they'll be with him. So that's not valuing the marriage, that's valuing what this guy can do for them.
Yeah.
And that's not a horrible thing. It's not exactly horrible, but the thing is, the guy who was making, you know, $50K in years past, yes, that was enough, depending on where you live, to That was enough to put some food on the table, pay the bills, keep the lights on and water running. And that was considered providing. Now they consider providing a lifestyle. And so they look at that man making 50K. Well, hey, they can make 45K. He's not providing. He's not doing nothing for me.
Right, I can dusty. Right.
Yeah. I can make my own little 45K and have my freedom. So unless he's making significantly more than me, then what's the point of this? And with a lot of women having that mindset, and coupled with the fact that there's a lot of guys who like this new world that we're in, where I call it, I don't know how much cuss words you allow on your show. I'll use Coach Greg Adams' word. He calls it peace leave when he's talking about the vag. Right. I want to use the P word. I would say it's a vagina riot out there, and some guys are the looters in that riot, and they like it just like it is. They don't want to see it change. They're happy. So it's a lot of guys that are happy with it. It's a lot of women that are happy with it. But then we put on our pro-black hat and then look at the outcomes of black people and black children and how behind they are. And then we go and look at the stats of how black people turn out, or how black kids turn out born into a nuclear family. And instead of saying that, oh, more families will fix the problem. No. It's the white man, it's this, it's that, it's everything. Instead of looking at fixing families. So that's where I'm at with it. And that's where I get on my Hopium, to where I have a hope that black families will get together and figure it out, and people will stay together and raise kids, because that's the best way to, if you want better outcomes for black people, you need better outcomes for black children. You get better outcomes for black children by black men and black women being together. There's no way around that. So I don't go the extreme place with it, where they just say it's over, even though there's internal logic in that position. Hey, work hard, be industrious, make your money, feed them with a long handle spoon, keep them at bay, keep them, build your moat, and only just let your drawbridge come down to let a few people in, and then send them packing. Don't let anybody in. I understand it. There's internal logic in the position of just make your money and stay single and just live your life. There's internal logic in that position, given the way things are. But then that's where my hope kicks in, that I would like to see overall better outcomes for black people. And so that's where I'm divided. And that's a reoccurring flashpoint on my show.
Now, one thing that's different about the black manosphere, and I mentioned the manosphere, but the black manosphere, of course, it seems that there is more content that focuses on this issue, the single mothers, the out of wedlock birth rate, the destruction of the black family, and some of the citation of stuff like 80% of black women, or 80% of divorces are initiated by black women, or only 1 in 4 black women will get married. Some of the statistics about, being overweight and obese, and a lot of that kind of stuff that gets stated, although it is sort of hard stuff to hear. I can understand if I was an overweight woman that had 2 kids out of out of wedlock. I can understand that person is probably not going to like those talking points. But if we don't talk about it and actually shed some light on it, it doesn't seem like there's much chance of it changing.
Right.
So you have a show with Ike on Sunday.
Yeah.
And now I'm a minister of music at a church. It's a missionary Baptist church. It's a black church. And one thing that is true and common in a lot of black churches is there's a lot of women, there's a lot of single mothers, but there's not that many men, and I did a panel discussion on O'Shea's channel, and it was all about why are black men leaving the black church and never going to return, this kind of thing. And actually, that video, the whole time we were live streaming that, and O'Shea was skeptical as to if it was going to be, received this way. But we had 700 or 800 live viewers the whole show, and it was like a 2.5 hour show, and we could have kept going, and people would have stayed in there, because it's like one of these topics that, I think a lot of the black men that are in the Manosphere, I think they're not in church. They kind of left the church and they're sort of seeking information, stuff that doesn't get talked about in black church anymore. Stuff like, how do you talk to a woman? How do you, get your money right? How do you invest? How do you, all the kind of man stuff. And then just even edgy conversations that you used to be able to have in the black church. And then you used to be able to have in the barbershop. But now the barbershop is connected to the beauty salon, so you can't sort of talk with that kind of freedom, and before 2012, 2013 or whatever, there wasn't this sort of kind of community where you could actually have these conversations. You could hear people discussing this stuff. It was almost like, it was like gaslighting. It was like society was trying to make you feel like you were the only one having a certain kind of experience.
Yep. Yeah.
So what? Yeah. So what do you? I said a bunch of stuff, but you can get in where you want to get in. There.
I was hoping you closed it out with a question, so I know exactly where to jump in. What did you say? You talked about the black church. Yes, the Manosphere, for better or worse, with all of its flaws, it is a place where black men do come and they get information. Right. They get a lot of man information. A lot of people are going to criticize it and say, oh, it's just dudes just crying and complaining about women. But no, the Manosphere has produced a lot of truckers, a lot of skilled, a lot of people have, picked up a trade, so it's produced a lot of truckers, a lot of skilled tradesmen, a lot of people investing their money, a lot of people investing in crypto. I got into crypto because of the Manosphere. Yeah. My game plan for my sons and how I got them set up to go to trade school, a thought process that I gathered up here. So it's a lot of good, valuable man information that's discussed here, and the space doesn't get enough credit for that. As far as the church, I don't think the church exactly feeds the needs of the average man, the average black man. It doesn't. No way around that. It just doesn't. I used to be an active member of a church. My reasons for leaving were completely separate from what you were talking about. I have my own little it's a whole nother subject, but it's hard for me to put my finger on why other men specifically leave, but I think you're on the right track when you're saying it doesn't really fit or fill the needs of men. And you don't want to get me talking about the churches. I get controversial. I get
fine.
I get a little too controversial. I mean, it's a lot of churches is just it's a theatrical performance a lot of the times. Yeah. And it doesn't. I think men actually just look at it like they look at the pastor as that's just a guy in a suit or a fancy robe just putting on a show. I think that's honestly how a lot of men actually look at that. I can't even remember what it was. It was something that I read before that talked about how few people actually read the Bible. They just read it at church when they say, open your Bible to this passage. And then they read a couple, read a few lines with the pastor close it, sets it down, and then just goes and puts on a theatrical performance. And that's the extent of how often people read the Bible right there. So people aren't really getting any information directly from the book. You can't actually physically audibly hear God speak. So when that pastor is talking, that's the voice of God. And I think women are susceptible to that and men are not. I mean, that's controversial, but yeah, I think women see that man in that suit or fancy robe or costume, and they hear that charismatic guy, and they're drawn to it. They get something out of it. They get their comfort food sometimes from it, but men don't need that. We need something else. So I think that has.
Yeah, men tend to be more into substance, and it's often is the case that women. It's not that substance is of no importance. It's definitely it's like a secondary or third or fourth on the list of things.
Yeah.
Case in point. So my wife, she wanted to buy some headphones. She got back in school. She's taking an online class. It's actually it's actually a jazz history course. I'm a jazz musician and director of jazz studies at Ohio State. So she's taking this class, and it's a general education course. She really wanted to be able to hear the music better, so I gave her some of my studio headphones, but she wanted some of her own. And so we're on Amazon, and I made my recommendation. Now, my recommendation was based on all substance. These are the best headphones in the price range. These are going to sound good. These are the industry standard. You see these in studios all around the world, X, Y, and Z. She wanted red headphones. Okay. Now, that's her color. Now, we happen to have found some that were good headphones that had red on them, but in most of the case, there was really cheap headphones that were red or super expensive headphones that were red. But the ones that were in the sweet spot, they were all like black or something, So that's sort of a common way that we sort of perceive things that's different. Women tend to be more into aesthetics. So in a church kind of situation, stuff like, light shows and smoke machines and all that kind of stuff, guys don't care about that stuff. Mm-hmm. Women care about that stuff. And so yeah, I agree. I think there's a problem when stuff sort of leans so far in a particular direction, more about production and less about sort of delivering substance. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think men are sensitive to that. And in Black church, I think you have, on top of that, you also have, you have the fact that you have so many single mothers. And so that's sort of dominating the congregation. And then if the men are not present, so then, okay, now you're going to have a lot of women in leadership positions, which isn't necessarily the traditional thing.
All right.
But who's going to do it? There's several issues. I mean, anyhow, I could go in deeper on that, but I have a couple other things I wanted to get at. One thing is about is kind of biographical stuff. Mm-hmm. On your show, you don't talk a whole lot about like how you grew up and that kind of stuff. And I think that would be interesting for the audience to hear. And then maybe something about maybe in particular your sort of red pill awakening. I think I have a bit of an idea since you went through a divorce. But I think that stuff would be, the audience I think would be interested in that.
All right. So the first part you said, how I grew up.
Yeah.
Well, single mother, like most. It was well, yeah, my mom and my dad. I trying to change the view there. Okay. Yeah, my mom and my dad, I don't even remember. They never were married. I don't remember exactly when they broke up. My brother, who's a year older than me, actually remembered that all of us being in the same house together, but at some point they separated, they broke up, and he died. My dad died when I was born 82. It was 87. So died when I was 5 or so. So my mom, she did get married, and then she got a brother and a sister, by the way. I'm the youngest. So my mom did get married. Sometime shortly after that fell apart. Then she got married again by the time I was in the 7th grade. And that time she did it right. She did it right. She married a man who wanted a family, but he couldn't have kids. He was a construction worker. She was like a supervising manager of the housekeeping department at a hotel. So his construction worker salary, her, being a supervisor at the hotel salary, that, combined together to where it was turned into middle class, so it was, so we had a comfortable, a comfortable living where it was on and off rough, before that, to put it mildly. But as a kid, you don't know that you're poor, but but yeah, there was some moments. It was some moments coming up, looking back at it, like, oh yeah, we were struggling, but I just couldn't see it because I was a kid. But so yeah, so from that moment, from 7th grade on, it was a blended family, but it was a family nonetheless, where there was a man in the lead who made the majority of the money, and yeah, and he ran the show, and it was a different experience. I didn't like him for very, he wasn't horrible, but I didn't like him, but looking back at it, it wasn't that bad. He was it was some things I learned as far as being a man that I learned from him that I got to give him credit for, but that was my life from 7th grade all the way up into 18 till I moved out at 19. And when I moved out at 19, that's when I got married. I went from, graduated high school at 18. My 19th birthday came and went. And a little bit after that, I was married. I was married probably a year after I graduated high school. So yeah, that was that's the shortest, quickest way I could sum up my upbringing.
Now you're so the woman you married was like a high school sweetheart?
Kind of, but we went to different high schools.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I mean, it was a video I did where I went into. I did a stream a while back. It was actually pre-recorded. It wasn't a live stream. It was called "I Used to Be the Cleanup Man." Long story short, with that, like, we went to high school. She graduated. We went to different high schools. She graduated before me. By the time I graduated, when I was in my senior year, I had called her back up, and she was pregnant. After she'd been out of high school for a while, so she was pregnant, and then so yeah, I was the cleanup man. I was the blue pill beta cuck, whatever Manosphere thing you want to throw on me. I was all of that. Yeah. But yeah, and so from there, yeah, they're on married all the way up until the marriage was okay at times, but bad at times. I periodically talked about some of it on my show, but then yeah, from the divorce and then so on. I think I led you up to when did the red pill stuff started happening.
Yeah.
I had the belief that yes, women were made of sugar and spice and everything nice, Donovan Sharp right off the stairs. I had that belief. I was naive enough to believe that, yes, if you just show up as a man and you do what a man is supposed to do, like I had good credit. I bought a house at 19. So here I am showing up at 19, bought a house, closed on the house on, I think, January 11th, married her on January 14th. So here I am. I'm like, you know, I'm doing it the right way. This can't go wrong, you know.
Right.
So I'm in my mind thinking that, hey, all you got to do is just show up and do the right thing, and a woman is just going to automatically just be, you know, receptive to that. She's a woman. All women are generally good women. So how could this go wrong? Me buying a house and marrying a woman that had a kid at 19, it can't go wrong. That was where my mind was at. And so the marriage was the marriage, and then so when it fell apart, it was, those were, it was some red pilling moments in the divorce. Going through the actual divorce, it was some serious red pilling moments that happened in there, where it was just like, wow, she's like, here I am thinking that we were just going to walk in there and everything was going to be fine and dandy, and, you know, hey, we're getting a divorce, and I had bought a house, you know, 8 minutes, no, not even that, 4 or 5 minutes away from her, just to make the co-parenting easy. I thought we would just naturally walk in there and agree to do 1 week on, 1 week off. Found out I was in the fight of my life, and they weren't hearing nothing that I was saying. And even when I, you know, lost and came back and presented evidence, they still weren't hearing anything that I was saying. So I had to lose again and come back with more evidence. And so I had to go through that whole process to try to get everything straightened out and taken care of, to where it eventually ended up, you know, with a custody arrangement agreement that I liked. And then once I got 50-50 on paper, then they were just with me pretty much all the time. After that, my oldest is with me 100% of the time. The youngest is with me probably 75 to 80% of the time. So I'm basically full-time dad at this point. So that was a serious red pilling moment. But then the getting out there actually dating women, that was more red pill awareness. Like, oh, my ex-wife wasn't just some one-off. That was these women are out here kind of wilding. But it was fine, because, like I said, I was single and I was just out looking for some action. So I was ready to roll up my sleeves, and I see what the game is. Let me roll up my sleeves and play this game.
I was in my early to mid 30s before I developed the ability to walk away from a relationship. And, you know, I had this sort of idealized vision, you know, like my parents are still married, you know, they've been married for 52 years. They got married when he was 19, she was 18, you know, 4 kids, struggle of, right? Didn't have nothing when they started in the beginning. Worked it out along the way. My dad grew up in the projects. Didn't have a relationship with his dad. But he didn't want that sort of thing for his own kids.
Right.
So I grew up in the country. 4-wheelers, go-karts, horses, all kind of stuff. And, you know, and those are the kind of stories that should be told, are the stories about fathers that, you know, had made the hard choices, did the right thing, and made it good for their family.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like those are just simps now. Because if you do those things and you do it for the wrong woman, because you don't have the sort of, your spidey senses aren't sensitive enough to be able to detect, you know, danger, then you know, you can end up in these really terrible situations. and the court system and everything else is lined up against you, is allied with the woman. But it took me a long time to develop that, and part of it was because I didn't like change. I just like things to just be what they were. But most of it was because I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to quit. You know, I took it as some sort of indication that, you know, if I give up on this thing, if I walk away from this, then it's like I'm a quitter, or I didn't try hard enough. It was that was like the perspective. And
are
I
you
learned
talking
later
about, real quick, are you talking about just walking away from just a woman, or if I understood, it was kids and everything involved, correct?
Well, no, it just relationships, period.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's difficult when there's kids involved, but that
Right.
just walking away from just that woman, yeah, that it's okay to be a quitter on that one. That's something that we
Right.
need to, and yeah, we definitely got to understand.
Yeah, but right, but because I think because of sort of a certain kind of conditioning, and this sort of thought process that like, you know, women are everything, you know, sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're never going to do anything wrong, and, you know, women are the moral compass, you know, this kind of thing that is throughout our culture, our society. Yeah. And then there's weren't really any outlets to kind of have these kind of conversations. Like, should my girlfriend be doing X, Y, and Z? Should she still be talking to her ex-boyfriend? Is that okay? I mean, they're just friends. She says that they're just friends. Is that okay? Those kind of, it's hard to get that kind of information. You know, it was.
Yeah, so it's basically a situation where some guys are just innately just born with it. Like that was my brother. He didn't have to get red pilled. He just was born with it. And even when he tried to talk to me, it just everything he said went over my head. Like, no, I'm marrying this a baby mama at 19. Just anything he tried to tell me went right over my head. I just wasn't hearing none of it. You did say one thing that I want to circle back to when you were talking about it. Maybe I heard it wrong. You said these guys are considered or reduced down to being called the simps. Were you talking about the guy who's, you know, going hard for his family?
I'm saying if you go hard for your family, I'm saying if you go hard for a woman and she's not the right one, you know, she's not worthy.
Yeah.
You know, but it seems that maybe disproportionately that's what we have now. We have what I see is that there's a lot of good guys that have these sort of traditional values. They believe in commitment. They believe in, you know, family and stuff like that. But they're sort of going after these women that's not their value system, you know? And if that's the case and you go hard for them, you're just going to end up in a bad situation. There's not.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, the only reason I wanted to make sure I circled back there, we had this conversation on my show. The guy who is constantly putting himself in that bad situation and not leaving and trying to do what he can come hell or high water to try to make a situation work with a woman who's just completely just this every red flag imaginable has been waved and thrown on the ground. Is so that if that guy just hell bent on doing that, then yeah, that guy would fall in that evolving category of what we call a simp, because everything gets called a simp. But I did have to give pushback to some guys on my show when they were doing the same thing when it was kids involved. And I was like, that guy who has kids, he has every reason and every excuse to stand in it and try to do what he can to fight to keep that family together. even if he's taking an L, even if, you know, it's a tough call. And keep in mind, I stood in the eye of that storm, but eventually it got to the point where I had to, you know, well, actually, she strategically filed the divorce because women are smarter than men when it comes to divorce and all of that stuff. When it comes to that, women are ahead of the game. I was leaving her, but she went in there and made sure she filed first so she could be the plaintiff and I could be the defendant. Women, I don't know how they soak up so much knowledge when it comes to that courtroom and how to make sure they get the last laugh in on a man. But anyway, yeah, the guy, you got to fight to the last drop if you're trying to, you know, save a family. But if you're just dealing with a woman, I'll word it like this: if you're dealing with a woman and there's no legally binding documents at the courthouse holding y'all together, there's no children holding y'all together, there's no, your name is not on the same lease, not on the same mortgage, not on the same anything, you can literally just, she can come home from work and you could just be going and that's it. By all means, get the hell out of there. So that's one thing that the Manosphere is good for, because like you were saying, you were well into your 30s and you were feeling like you had to stand in it and had to figure out how to make it work, you know, and like, no. So the Manosphere definitely is doing its job. We're getting guys in that mindset, because men, we don't get credit for it, but we're very romantic. We have delusions of grandeur when it comes to this thing with women. And so the Manosphere is shaking the romance out of a lot of guys and like, no, you need to get practical. You need to look at what works and what doesn't work, because we can do that in every other area of life. But when it comes to women, we will get real just stupid. It is so yes. So definitely the Manosphere is definitely doing its job in that regard.
Yeah. So I just have I just have, you know, one more question for you. So I mean, how do you see your platform developing? I mean, do you have some other, maybe you have some, well, you know, if it's secret idea, you're not going to share it now either. But what goals do you have for your channel?
Yeah, I'm already into the the next phase of it, where I hired an editor. I got it. When you look at my thumbnails, if the thumbnail looks really cool, somebody else did it. If it looks kind of basic, I did it. So I got somebody who's doing my thumbnails and editing my pre-recorded videos, because I'm making shorter pre-recorded videos. They can range anywhere from 8 minutes to 25 minutes at the longest, but I want to keep them right around the same amount of time that O'Shea videos tend to range. And that could be anywhere from like 9 to 12 minutes. I want to keep them around that there. I've actually gotten good at editing videos myself. I've sent I got 2 videos that I sent to the editor that I know one of them will be done by tomorrow and will be dropping tomorrow. The other one may be dropping the day after tomorrow. And so today and tomorrow, I'm going to be working on more pre-recorded stuff so I can send that to him, because I want to do my live show every day, but I want to drop a pre-recorded video every day. I want to grow it that way, because I don't know if you know it, but if you look at my channel, I have a pre-recorded video where the editor, he did the thumbnail, he edited the video. It looks really good, really professional, and it was on a trending topic about Kevin Samuels when he had his little run-in with that Chicago radio personality chick. And
Kendra G.
Yeah, and that video went viral. It's still getting views. It's up to like 54,000 views. So when you get to the point where you could drop an 8-minute edited video that's real cute and got all the bells and whistles on it, and sometimes, you know, they may only get 5,000, but every now and then they may go viral and get 50,000. I did another one that's only sitting there with about 600 views. So sometimes they may just, you know, not do really great. Another one that I did, and I edited that one myself, because I'm actually learning how to edit videos. The one with about Alan Roger Curry and the Saint in the Center, and their whole, what I thought was going to be a humongous beef, they actually kind of worked it out civilly, but I did a video on that, and it it got about 3,600 views, and the editor did the thumbnail, but I was proud of that video because I did the editing for it and I made it look real good. So I'm in a process where I'll be able to have, sending videos to my editor to work on it. Then I'll have some that I'll be working on myself, where I'll be doing something similar, like I want to say a cross between what Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews do and what O'Shea do. And so I'm going to be doing that, kind of building that on the side while still doing my live show every morning. So this is at that point, this is, full-time job where I'm going to, basically put in the hours and produce a lot of content and try to, grow the channel like crazy. If I can get in that algorithm like how O'Shea and MTR is, my channel will be going to the moon at that point. So that's what I'm focused on. That's what I'm trying to get it to do. And like you said earlier, the amount of views I get, is particularly live views, in proportion with the amount of subscribers I have, is astonishing. I have what is known as, or maybe I just call it that, active subscribers. Like there are people that got 50,000 subs, but they go live and they only get about 300 people in there, and their videos average anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 views. That means they got a lot of subs 6 years ago, 5 years ago, probably 10 years ago. Those aren't active subs. They're not getting your notifications no more. They're just sitting there making your channel look big. But my channel, because my channel hit the ground running so well, almost all of my subs are active subs. So, and I'm getting new subs. And when you get new subs, those new subs are active. So you got to try to hold their attention and keep cranking out good content for them. So the growth of my channel is amazing, and I'm humbled by it, and I'm riding a wave. So that's pretty much. I think I laid out my game plan. How I'm going to try to continue I'm going to try to continue my live show and keep that going, but I want to hit the algorithm in different ways by doing something similar to what Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews do, and what O'Shea does, dropping those pre-recorded, edited videos like that. So it'll be like that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm doing it.
Well, I enjoy your show, man, and you're talking on the topics, a lot of the topics that are important for us to be discussing right now. I think the pandemic has sort of created a certain kind of space to be able to talk about that. Had it not been for the pandemic, then first of all, I don't think that Kevin Samuels would be as big as he is right now.
Yeah, but keep in mind, I blew up in the pandemic too. Like I started going live in January, and they shut the world down by I think March, April, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, in March. So so right when I really started to take off, right around the time I got my 1,000 subs and got monetized, that's pretty much when the world got shut down, because I got monetized in April of last year. So I'm rolling up on a year of being monetized in like a few days. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just pointing out.
No.
I benefited the same way that Kevin Samuels did, not as big as him, but I benefited nonetheless.
Yeah, so Kevin wouldn't have been there. I think there's several others that have, I think, kind of rode the wave, and I think just a certain kind of prominence that's brought to the Black Manosphere, and I think that there is an important message there, and So thanks for doing the interview, man. I gonna have to have you on another time. I have a live stream myself called Thunder's Thoughts. It's just a once a week show. Maybe I can get you on that show.
Oh yeah, no doubt. What day do you do Thunder Thoughts?
I usually do it. I didn't do it today, but I usually do it Wednesdays at 4:15. But I'm still kind of figuring out what the ideal time is going to be. When the school year is over, I'm probably going to change the time to probably a little bit later, in that sort of sweet spot somewhere between 6 and 8 o'clock.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I definitely I don't hop on panels that much randomly, because I think that's when my introvertedness starts bothering me. After I get done with my show, I gotta relax, I gotta chill. But when you go, shoot me a message. I normally hop on panels by request. If somebody asks me to be there, normally I'll show up. Normally I'll show up. But just randomly just hopping on panels, and I tend to not do that because, I'm burnt out from doing my show, and then you know how it goes.
I understand. All right, man. Well, I will see you later.
All right. Thanks.
All right, man.
Yep.